Hello everybody and welcome. This is Roland from Graphic in Motion. In this tutorial I want to show you how to extend the length of placeholders within my Best Memories Vintage Film Frames template. I got a few mails and questions from you guys out there how it works to extend the placeholder durations, and it's not that complicated, but it's also not too easy, so I thought I will do a tutorial and show you how to do that. So let's get started. If you open up the template, you will see that you are inside the render comp, and there is one composition inside this comp. It's called animation comp, and we want to open this up by just double clicking on it. And now you see that we are inside the composition where all the animation is happening. So the first thing that you have to know is all the motion within this template. So you know, when for example the film strip slides over to the next one, which happens in fact between every placeholder, is controlled by only one layer, and this is the top layer here called the motion control layer. If you select this and press U on the keyboard, you can reveal all the keyframes, and you will see that these are the keyframes which control these motions. So that's important to know if you want to change the length of the placeholders. Let's say that I want to exchange the length of my first placeholder here. The first thing I want to do is to enter this placeholder by double clicking on it. And now I'm inside my placeholder composition. And this placeholder now has a length of 133, so 134 frames, and I want to change it and just go to composition settings. And let's say I want to change it to 250, which would be exactly 10 seconds. Now I will just extend my placeholder here that we see something in the animation, and I will go back to the animation composition. And now you see that my placeholder is still in the original length, but it has extended here. So I have the possibility to extend the duration here, but I don't want to do this now. Before I change anything and move anything around, I really have to check the situation now. I really have to know where starts placeholder 2, where is the keyframe that controls the transition between placeholder 1 and placeholder 2, because I have to move this accordingly to the new length of my placeholder. So let's do that. Therefore, I just select my placeholder number 1 and I press the O key of the keyboard, which sets my cursor, my timeline cursor, exactly to the out point of my placeholder. If you take a look here, you see it's one frame before the placeholder ends. So this is the out point of my placeholder. And as you see, this is exactly the point where placeholder 2 starts. And that's exactly what we have to keep in mind. So out point of placeholder 1 is exactly the same as start point of placeholder 2. And if we extend the length and move everything, this should be the same. Another thing that has to stay the same is the start keyframe of the animation. If you take a look at this keyframe here, this is the keyframe where the animation starts. It slides over to the next placeholder. And this keyframe, let's go again to our placeholder, press O to get the out point, is one frame in front of my out point. So keyframe, one frame in front of my out point, and start point of placeholder 2 exactly the same as my out point. That's what I want to keep in mind. And now I can start to move all my placeholders, titles, and keyframes. So first thing, we extend our placeholder to its new length, 10 seconds. Second thing, I will press O on the keyboard, which will move my timeline to the new out point of my placeholder. Now I select all my placeholders, placeholder 2 to placeholder 12, by just clicking the first one, hold down Shift and click the last one. And don't forget, very important, to move the titles accordingly to the placeholders. You see that normally placeholder 2 corresponds with title number 3, so I want to select all titles, number 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, until really to the last two titles, which are the end titles and the logo. Now I have everything selected that I want to move except the keyframes. I will deal with the keyframes in the next step. But what I have to do now is to drag all my titles and placeholders to the new position. My timeline cursor is still at the out point of my placeholder 1, and this is exactly the start point of my placeholder 2. So you take the placeholder 2 layer with all the others selected, and then you hold down Shift and line it exactly up at the timeline, which I did now. Now we zoom in and check whether it's working or whether it worked. So let's see. You see, it's exactly one frame in front of the end, so exactly at the out point, so this worked. And the next thing we want to do is we have to remember that our keyframe, which started the transition between placeholder 1 and placeholder 2, was placed exactly one frame in front of this frame. So the keyframe is here. It's still this one, you know, where the slide starts, but now you see we have no transition anymore because there's still placeholder 1 visible. So let's go to our placeholder 1, press O for the out point, and I will just move back one frame. And now I'm exactly at the right spot where my animation, the transition, should start. And what I'm going to do now is I keep in mind which keyframes I have to select, and it's still this one here, the first one. So now I want to select all the keyframes starting from this one. So I just drag through all the timeline until to the end. This is my last keyframe. And now, because my cursor, my timeline cursor, is still in the right spot, I can just press Ctrl X to cut them out and Ctrl V to paste them in again. And now, if we have a little luck, it should work perfectly. So you see, transition, placeholder 2. Very good. Let's see the next one. Placeholder 2, titles here. Very good. Next one, transition, placeholder 3, and so on. And it doesn't matter which placeholder you want to extend. Important thing is that you do the steps as I did, and be aware that the timing is not always the same, because the transitions between the placeholders have a little bit of variation. It's not always the same timing as I have here, so it's not always the same that the animation starts one keyframe in front of the out point. You have to check this for any placeholder you want to extend. So be aware and be careful that you really analyze the situation right to recreate it after moving all the elements to the new position. And of course, if you really want to extend the length, so if I just extended it for about 120 frames or so, be aware that you would have to change the duration of the animation composition too. If you want to have a 40 seconds video within one placeholder, you probably want to change the whole duration, and therefore you would have to change the composition settings, animation, make a new one here, and also extend, of course, the film strip composition, which was very easy because it's just a simple still picture or graphic. So you could also change the length here according to the overall duration, you know. But be aware that you have to change these things. And another thing I want to tell you, if you want to extend the length of the placeholders, you can of course also copy these short tilts, you know, like here for example. This is one of these film tilts, you know, when the film strip jumps out of the projector, they always do something like this. And I put in from time to time, they appear here, you know, and you exactly see which keyframes are controlling this motion. So if you extended your placeholder like I did, and here you have now 2, 3 or 4 seconds and nothing happens. There is no kind of shift and tilt, which is kind of boring. So we just take this one here, copy it and paste it in, and you see now we have a tilt here. Can make another one here. So you can just copy in the tilts and the motion, so that even if you extend your placeholders, there is still some animation and something is happening, so that it's looking interesting again. The last thing I want to tell you is, if you changed the length of the animation, then please be aware that you have, of course, to change the workspace, the work area, because if we go to the render comp now, you will see that this ends exactly at the end of the standard length. So you have to change this, you know. We can now, you can see that now the animation is 1126 frames long. So if I go to my new animation and I just take the last out point, and the last out point is exactly the logo, and I go to O, and you will see we are now on 2243. So first of all, I have to take this work area and drag it here. I just can press N, it's the same effect. And now I will copy this value, go to my render comp and change the composition settings here and paste in this value. And now you see that I have to extend it. And now we have the new duration, you know, because our placeholder one now is longer. And now you can render it out and the length is good. Okay, this is it. I hope that the tutorial helps you, and I hope that you were able to follow my a little bit weird and complicated instructions. If you have any problems, then just feel free to write me a mail through my VideoHive profile or through my homepage, or also through YouTube, whatever you want. And have fun with the template, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.